Royal Public, Ntate Cyril Ramaphosa, and as he come, thank him sincerely for honoring us with his president. So, President, welcome.
Thank you. Let's be seated, please. Program Director, Minister of Basic Education, Me Enjim Motsecha, Deputy Minister of Basic Education, Me Regina Mhaule, MECs of Education, the chairpersons of the Portfolio Committee and Select Committees, the Director General, who does not seem to be here today, but I greet him. Is he here? He's hiding. Deputy Directors General, heads of provincial education departments, representatives of the Asmal family, National Teachers Awards sponsors who bring the money and enable this to happen. We thank you, and let's give them a round of applause. Education stakeholders, the finalists in the 21st National Awards, Teaching Awards. Now those are the most important. You can forget everyone else I spoke about. Let's give them a round of applause. You all look so beautiful and handsome. Even the men look handsome today. The men don't always look handsome. So it's a real joy and a pleasure for me to be here amongst you. Each time I'm told about National Teachers Awards, I really get overjoyed. I hope you have listened to what Minister Motsecha was saying about me. She was saying I'm decorated. I don't see any decoration on me. I don't have medals and I don't have flowers on me. She says I'm decorated. What I can confirm is that yes, we went to the same school and we went to university together. And it's wonderful that we are still working together. And she's leading this basic education department extremely well. And Deputy Minister Mhaule, I said Minister Mhaule, I'm sure she must have been saying, have I now been demoted as a minister? Deputy Minister Mhaule was whispering to me that it is really a joy to work with Minister Motsecha, and I can testify to that. Yesterday was World Teachers' Day. It was a day on which we acknowledge and appreciate the work and the contribution teachers make in educating and nurturing the young minds of our nation. We must say as a nation, we salute our teachers as the people, the cohort of people in our nation whose dedication and commitment drives economic development, social development, and fosters the growth that we want to see in our country. If you never thought as teachers that you drive economic development, today I'd like you to be aware of the fact that our economy would not function as well as it does and as well as we want it to do without your very important role. So you are economic activists. You are deeply involved in the economic life of our country. This is because any nation's future really starts in the classroom, where you operate. It starts in your office. It starts with the work that you do as the teachers of our nation. At times you work under very difficult circumstances and conditions. We know that you are examples of resilience. You are examples of excellence, but you are also examples of professionalism, because professionalism underpins everything that you do as teachers. From the moment that you read the curriculum and you plan your day and your year and all that, it is all underpinned by professionalism. Now, we have to say thank you to all of you, because at the height of the devastating COVID-19, teachers, all of you remained true to your calling. You remained true to what you do best, and you acted collectively to make sure that we do navigate our way around COVID-19. We are indeed indebted to the teachers who made it possible for the education of our children to continue through blended learning and other strategies. In the course of COVID, you have to learn new ways of teaching. You had to adapt, and you adapted extremely beautifully. And it is with sadness that we remember and pay tribute to all the teachers and other education officials who succumbed to COVID-19. It does fill us with great sadness indeed. And in their honor, we must safeguard the safety of teachers, but as well as learners, and ensure that the teaching and learning environment remains conducive at all times. And we must secure that environment, because if that environment is not conducive to learning and teaching, then no teaching will take place. We need to continue to continuously take the necessary steps, as well as precautions, as well as to observe, yes, all the health protocols that are necessary to ensure our safety in the workplace. I wish to encourage more teachers and education officials to heed the best scientific advice that is available. As you are professionals, the true quintessential professionals, you would be the first to be scientifically oriented and to have a keen interest in the scientific advice that we get with regard to how we manage COVID-19 and all its attendant defense mechanisms, such as the various protocols that we've always spoken about, as well as the vaccination process against this deadly disease. Vaccination is not only about protecting one's health and life, it is also about protecting others and ensuring that we can all resume many of the activities that we have not been able to participate in, as we have been restricted for the past 18 months. Now today, as we celebrate the 21st edition of the National Teachers Awards, which were conceptualized by Professor Kader Asmal when he was Minister of Education. We now gather here, and some participating through the virtual platform, for this very important occasion. Now, as we do so, we recall the passion, the tenacity, as well as the intellect of Professor Kader Asmal in the way that he brought great panache as well as responsibility to the ministry. For him, education was a revolutionary undertaking. It was an undertaking that had to bring about change. It was an undertaking that was the most potent force in our struggle to end poverty, to end misery, and was also the foundation upon which all human endeavor is built. But it was also a foundation on which we could build a prosperous South Africa. As I said earlier, that your calling has an economic aspect to it. Professor Asmal's memory compels us to celebrate the excellence and dedication of those teachers who spare absolutely nothing of themselves, who go all the way, who give great dedication to the task that they have to build a new society in pursuit of a better life for all. And this is the day when we applaud them. This is the day when we recognize them. Because in the end, teachers carry a great responsibility in the development of our country. Education, as we've often said, is really the bedrock of the identity, the existence of our country. And it was education that was used as the greatest weapon against the people of our country. I often say that one can forgive all the things that were done against the majority of our people, but the one that I find difficult to forgive was the way in which our people were denied a basic, decent, and good education. Right now, we are into the fourth industrial revolution. And this revolution is dramatically changing the way we relate to one another. It is also changing the way we relate to work. It's also transforming and changing the way we live, the way we play, the way we educate our children, and everything else is completely changed by the Industrial Revolution. Technologies such as artificial intelligence, the Internet of Things, big data, augmented reality, blockchain, and automation are disrupting and changing every industry across the world. And in many ways are also changing our way of life. For our children to operate in a world alongside smart machines, they will need to be educated differently than in the past. And this is where your task comes in as teachers. This is where you have to adapt. This is where you have to adopt new ways of doing things that are well attuned with artificial intelligence, Internet of Things, and all those technologies. I believe that our teachers are teachers who are committed to manage this transition. As I've looked around and as I've interfaced with a number of you, I have found that you are willing, prepared, and determined to manage this transition. And I do believe that you have the responsibility to ensure that you have the capabilities as well as the resources to prepare the learners of our country, the children of our country, for an exciting new future. Because in the end, it behoves on you, it is in your hands to prepare the children of our country for this new future that is calling them, that is beckoning, that awaits them. And it is a future that they cannot avoid. But importantly, it is also a future that you as teachers cannot run away from, that you cannot avoid. And I believe that you don't want to run away from it. You want to encounter it, you want to embrace it, and you want to be very active in it. We look to the teachers of our country to pursue education for sustainable development so that learners become learners who are empowered with the knowledge, with the skills, with the values, and the attitudes to take informed decisions in advancing environmental integrity, economic viability, but also a just society. As a nation, our most pressing challenge right now is the issue of youth unemployment. Some of the young work seekers are not well educated and do not possess sufficient skills and previous work experience that is demanded by the employers in the labor market. I saw this very clearly when we introduced initially the social disaster relief grant, the special one rather, of 350. The initial one, there were about 6 million people who applied. The next one was 12 million people. And then I asked that we should do more analysis. I wanted to know things such as how many of these people have bank accounts. And I was told that 75% of them have bank accounts, which for me was great. It was fantastic to know that we are becoming more and more of a banked nation. And nearly 100% of them have cell phones. Then I was overjoyed to realize that we have embraced technological usage in our country. But then I asked, how many of them have never worked? It was a huge number of people who had never worked before. Then I asked, how many of them have done 12 years of schooling? 12 years of schooling. And we found that just over 50% of them had not finished 12 years of schooling. Then I was dismayed, because then I realized that we have a major problem in our country. The majority of people, all of the 12 million people who had applied, are essentially people who we said should be unemployed, and so they filled that requirement. But many of them were then people who had not finished the 12 years of schooling. Now that should be a concern to all of us. Now that rests on our collective shoulders to make sure that those who enter school, and I've often said on public platforms, which is I think borne out by some reality, that about 1 million young children enter school nearly every year. And after 12 years, it's not 1 million young people who finish school. Now, our responsibility must be to keep them in schools. We must keep them in the school, and when they disappear from school, it should also be our collective responsibility to follow them up and find out why are they not in school, and to come up with solutions that will keep them in school. Because if our returns are below 50%, then we are working backwards. Particularly when 100%, say 1 million young people register for school every year, and of course more, and the numbers keep changing. So our responsibility should never end in the classroom. It should go way beyond the classroom. It should be a sustainable responsibility that gets into the community, just that seeks to find out why our young people are not finishing the 12 years in school. So that as a teacher, when you miss a learner, you must ask yourself, why is that learner not in class? And be able to do a little bit of social work and follow up and find out exactly where that learner is, why that learner has not come to school. Like me at home, when I'm not home, on time, my wife wants to find out, where are you? She phones and says, where are you now? When any of our children are not home, we want to find out, why are you not at home? Because you are supposed to be at home. And similarly with us as teachers, because colleagues, I am really worried about these number of people, because now I've seen how the statistics are working out. We've always been concerned that not all the young people who register for school at the beginning of their learning lives finish that school journey 12 years later. So we need to correct that. And the best way to do so is that we as teachers must actively embark on a process to make sure that they stay in school. If they leave school, we must find out why. Is it because you are, as a teacher, boring? You are not exciting? You are not teaching well? You need to ask yourself that. That is self-criticism. Like me, when I chair the cabinet, I always want to find out, where are the ministers? And the ministers have to tell me why they are not there. So every reason must be given. And if I see that a minister is missing, I ask myself, am I that boring as the chairman of the cabinet that they stay away? So similarly, you need to ask yourself precisely that question. But are there any problems at home? We as teachers must know. We must know everything about our learners. It's just like the way the companies are working today. We all know that many companies now have embarked on know your customer approach. They want to know everything about us. They want to know what are your likes, and they want to know where you live. They want to know, everything, your cell phone, your email address, and everything else. Now, as teachers, in order for us to produce the young people who are going to be employable in the labor market, we must know our young people. We must also make sure that we know them so fully and their family backgrounds. That, my dearest teachers, for me is important. And if we've never really done it, and I know that a number of you do, we should start doing it now. And go beyond just giving attention to the learner. We must now start giving attention, yes, to the parents, to the family environment. We must know where this child that we've been given a responsibility to teach comes from, so that we are able to craft even the education that we deliver to them according to the circumstances that they come from. Now, many of our young learners come from very challenged circumstances and environments. We know that. And this is what we have inherited from our past, from the apartheid past, which just defined the majority of our people as poor, as people who are unemployed, and this is what we now need to counter, to address. Now, today is a day that is important, but it is also a day that we should all say, as we receive these awards, and as we applaud those who are getting these awards, it is a day that places not only a great responsibility on those who are getting awards, but on all of us. Also on education officials. And indeed, all of us are supposed to be involved in this, to ensure that our schools, our colleges, and indeed our universities and other training institutions produce the skills and the capabilities that our country needs. What it does do is that it requires that young children have access also to early childhood development. We need to start from an early stage. We also need to ensure that every child can read for meaning. This is one of the priorities that I set out in the State of the Nation address, and said we must now become a nation which focuses on our young people, so that we ensure that they can read for meaning and understand what they are reading at an appropriate age, and that we prioritize achievement in science and technology, as well as engineering and mathematics, and that we substantially reduce what I was talking about by exciting our young people in the way that we deliver our education. We must ensure that every school leaver has the confidence, the capabilities, and the opportunities to want to be hungry to study further, to find employment or gain work experience. We must just unlock that hunger in our young people for further study, for further inquisitiveness, for further research, for further wanting to know much more about the world that we live in. This work should align with the initiatives like the South African Youth Pathway Management Network, the Presidential Employment Stimulus, and the YES initiative that we launched some time ago. These initiatives support young people in their efforts to find pathways into the economy. In essence, what we should be doing from the very start is to say, will this young person have a pathway? We must be developing good pathways for them in the end to be great contributors to our nation, to our economy. So what should be prominent in our heads? Even as you look at a young child who is a learner, you ask yourself, am I going to produce scientists out of these young people? Am I going to produce engineers? Now, that is where you start, because you are the producers of engineers, yes, of ministers, of presidents, of politicians, of plumbers. That is the work that you do. You are the factory that produces all these people who finally will play some key role. Now you need to ask yourself, what is it that I want to focus more attention on? Do I want to produce more engineers? Do I want to produce more scientists? And you start crafting your contribution around that. So that because you've taken up a calling that says, I am going to educate the nation. Funza Rushaka. I like the bursary scheme that the Department of Education came up with. Funza Rushaka. Educate the nation. Because what you are essentially doing is to Funza Rushaka. You are educating the nation. So what you should focus on is, as I funza this Rushaka, this nation, what do I want to produce? Do I want to produce engineers? Do I want to produce scientists? Do I want to produce accountants? And start honing in on that and accentuating what you see. And what you see is your interaction, your interface with those young people. Now, colleagues, together we have a great responsibility to develop a new generation of patriotic citizens, young people who are conscious of their responsibility to build a better society, but to also build a society that is aware and alive to everything that happens around them. Now, I often test people as we just go about our lives. And sometimes I ask people, do you know how many people live in Gauteng? You find that many of us as South Africans don't know. How many people live in KZN? Ready, easy to find information. We are not alive and conscious to some of the things like that. And our education system needs to make us become aware to the statistical world around us. We see plants, we see trees. We never get to know the plants and the trees that we see around us. We see all manner of things. And our education must raise the level of consciousness so that we are more attuned, yes, to the world around us. We become conscious and we become patriotic. This is a new generation that should refuse to do all manner of wrong things. And this should be inculcated from a very young age. You know, if, as we are brought up in our own home families, our parents always say, you may not steal, you may not lie. And that is inculcated in our heads, in our minds. And we know from a very young age that that is not what we're supposed to. I'd like to see that enforced in schools so that those lessons, important lessons in life, are inculcated in us. that at the school level, we should be bringing up young people who are going to be good citizens of our country, who will not participate in crime, who will not participate in corruption, or who will also not participate in gender-based violence, people who will be dedicated to the values of democracy, to non-racialism, to non-sexism, yes, to freedom, people who will uphold the equality values that are enshrined in our Constitution and also uphold human dignity. Let me conclude by congratulating all the teachers who were nominated and finalists in the prestigious National Teaching Awards. This is indeed a great honor. Minister Motshekga said, I am decorated. No, I am not. But the teachers who are going to get these awards are the ones who are decorated. That is real decoration. Now, that is real decoration. Minister Motshekga, I've never received an award as a teacher, so I'm not decorated. But if you want to start today to decorate me, I don't mind at all. Those who have been nominated and who are the finalists are following in the footsteps of great teachers that we have had in our country, who also became freedom fighters, who were taught like you are teaching the young people, and produced by teachers like yourselves, and finally became great freedom fighters, who took up the teaching profession in the firm belief that education was the purest and the surest path to liberation. And these teachers include Umama Charlotte Maxeke, whose life we're celebrating today, this year. She was a qualified teacher, and she was a liberation stalwart to whom we have dedicated this year, 2021, as the 150th anniversary of her birth. We remember other teachers who became great icons in our country, liberation icons like Z.K. Matthews, Chief Albert Lutuli, Govan Mbeki, Nogutela Mdima Dube, Oliver Tambo, Robert Sobukwe, and many others who became teachers. I wish to acknowledge and thank all the stakeholders in the education sector who are also here today, including teacher unions and school governing bodies who are working with us to build a resilient education system for equitable, sustainable development. And Minister Motshekga was really taken in and rather pleased to hear that a number of our teachers who participate in international, say, competitions, they end up receiving really great accolades and awards at an international level. So we congratulate those. So you have really exploded beyond South Africa, and I'd like to see you exploding into the minds and the hearts of our young children, so that we reduce this deficit, that year after year we should be seeing an increase of young people who finish school. If you, all of you, actively get engaged in making sure that these young people do stay in education. When a young person has disappeared from your class, you should be worried. You should walk the streets of our townships, the pathways of our villages, go hunt them down and find out, why are you not at school? Why are you not here? And you singularly, as a teacher, perhaps teaching maybe 40, 45 young learners in your class, Now, that is the cohort that you should be looking after. And follow up maybe the 10%, the 15% who disappear from your class. Now, this we can do, and from government side, we will do that as well. And I'd like to start working on this program, Minister Motshekga. I do want us to reduce this deficit. I want us to reduce the number of young people who do not finish school. That is what I want us to do. Now, as you know, the quintessential politician that I am, I'm now involved in doing door-to-door work for an event that will take place, which you should participate in on the 1st of November. You all have an appointment with me on the 1st of November, but I put that aside. But as I do door-to-door work, Minister Motshekga, I get into people's houses. And when I get in there, I find young children as well. And I find parents, and I ask, how many children do you have? How educated are they? How far did they go to school? And I find discrepancies. Some of them will say, no, I have 4 children. This one did this, and this one dropped out of school. And I am pained by that. This one did not finish matric. This one, fell short, and this and this at grade 9. I am pained by it. So let's take it up. I'm taking it up as my responsibility as I go into people's homes to encourage young people to stay in school. Let us as teachers go out and hunt down those young people and get them to come back to class, to finish their education. Sometimes I meet young people who've dropped out, and I encourage them, go back. And I even say to my staff, take the phone number. We will phone you in January to find out if you are going back to school or not. So I am putting a lot of pressure on all of us to make sure that there's 1 million young people who register for school every year must finish school. If we can hit 75% and even 80%, then our job will be done. Our greatest achievements are won by working together. And this is the area where I really do want us to work together through solidarity. And solidarity is about supporting one another, working together with families, working together with our learners, working together amongst us with the principal and everyone who is in the school environment. It is also through mutual respect and partnership that we will be able to overcome the most difficult of challenges. This is a challenge that I am highlighting today. Together, we ended apartheid and established a united and democratic nation. And together, we also confronted the devastation of the worst pandemic that our country has ever seen in almost more than 100 years. And together, we've built a single, united education system for all South Africans, with greater access and steadily improving outcomes. If you remember where we came from, we had 13 or so education departments in this one beautiful country of ours. We've now united that. We now have one department of basic education. And together, I believe that we can provide the young people of our country with the skills, with the knowledge, and the outlook that will enable them to grow as well as to thrive in a new world of opportunity. Let us unlock that new world for all our young people, not just for the 50% who start school and finish 12 years later, but for all our young people. I'd like to thank you, and I wish all the finalists the very best, and congratulations. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Mr. President. So teachers, you heard the challenge by the President, 75% to 85% retention rate. Are you up for that challenge? But Mr. President, thank you so much for acknowledging the teachers that we've lost to COVID-19. It has been such a difficult time for, the sector as well. And I believe that this is a time where the love for your profession was really, really tested. Mr. President, we also thank you for not